strategist Ruth Rama Witt, and she is an NYU alum who conceptualized this workshop because of the coaching and preparation that has gone into her own recruitment practice. She's joined by veteran personal stylist Kim Apodaca, who serves an international client list through her practice, Recharge Your Style. And we also have TV host and media coach Layla Spitani, who has been teaching industry professionals in New York for over 15 years. So a really great panel of speakers today to help guide you through the virtual interview process. As a reminder, you can type any questions you have into the chat boxes. And as you may have seen just a moment ago, this event is being recorded. So for those of you who might not be able to stay the full way or want to review information afterwards, it will be posted online within the next week. So with that, I will hand things over to our wonderful speakers today.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you. I am so excited to be here today, and I'm honored to be speaking to NYU alumni. I started this workshop because I was inspired by the amount of preparation that as a recruiter, my candidates required in preparation for their job interviews. During the time of COVID, I did observe that that level of preparation has taken on greater meaning because all these interviews, meetings, and networking opportunities are happening on this portal. So I have found that my candidates needed that extra support. I do like to start my workshop by sharing a little bit about my own journey, my own professional journey, and various job searches that I've experienced in my life. I started my career in recruitment. I was in healthcare recruitment for over 10 years. I ran the New York office of my family business. Then after over a decade, I did decide I needed to make a career change. I wanted to enter the fashion business, but without any contacts, no network to speak of, I knew I had to figure out a way to immerse myself in that industry. So I decided to enroll in a certificate program at FIT, the local fashion school. That certificate program enabled me to pursue an internship that subsequently led to my first job in the fashion business, and that was at the Armani Group. For the next 10 years, I stayed with that company and I built my second career in fashion. That's the part of my story that's about the major career change. After 10 years in the fashion business, I decided I wanted to stay home with my then young child. So I took a step back from my fashion career and was able to have that luxury. After 5 years, when she was ready to start kindergarten, I was more than ready to return to work. Unfortunately, it was very challenging and I could not gain any traction in my job search. It wasn't until an old boss and my mentor from Armani who enabled me to jump back in at Coach and to join his team in global marketing. However, within 11 months, our team, and myself were subject to a downsizing. So within a 1-year period, I experienced the highs of a career re-entry to the lows of an unexpected corporate downsizing. So there I was again, having to launch another job search. And at that point, I really wasn't sure how to navigate the labor market. So I signed up for a recruitment firm, hoping to get some guidance and support. And it was this group that enabled me to return to the recruitment industry. And I haven't looked back since. As a recruiter, like I said, I do provide a high level of preparation for my candidates. But what I have observed is during this time of COVID, the level of preparation has taken on greater meaning because it's not just about the basics of interviewing, but there are factors that have to also be considered in that preparation. So I'd like to go over quickly, and Heather, if you don't mind putting up one of the slides, starting with the basics of interview preparation. So interview preparation starts with a resume. You want to make sure that you are prepared to walk through your background and to explain your background in a succinct manner with the person who's interviewing you. You have to understand the job description, research the company, and of course, look up the person who's interviewing you on LinkedIn. Preparation for basic interview questions means that you plan your answers to ensure that you are focusing your answers on the job requirements. So the not so basics of preparation. For the next slide, The not so basic elements of preparation for the job interview are background, lighting, the technology, and your outfit. For the next slide, today we are going to talk about that level of preparation for your job interviews. We're going to talk about content, confidence, and connection. So to be more specific, content is what should I say during that interview? Confidence, how do I present myself while I'm saying it? And connection, how do I say it so I can feel connected to the person interviewing me? Next slide, please. Today, we're going to have mock interviews. And with my colleagues, Kim and Layla, I will provide the best answers and the approach to the typical interview questions. Kim will provide feedback on your lighting, your background, and overall presentation. And Layla, as a TV host and media coach, will provide feedback on your communication, some tips and tricks on how to feel more comfortable on this virtual platform. For the last slide, I'm providing some basic interview questions and some of the tougher interview questions. These are the questions we will likely cover during our mock interviews today. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to Kim Apodaca.
Hi, everybody. I am Kim, and I'm the founder of Recharger Style. I have been a personal stylist for almost 2 decades, and I've styled all types of people from celebrities to Fortune 500 executives, moms, widows, even teens, anywhere between LA, Vancouver, New York, and even London. I would say that my niche is helping those go through a transition. Most of my clients come to me when they find themselves at a time of transition, whether they have chosen that time of transition and they want to embody a new confident self, or whether their transition has been bestowed onto them. And over the years that I have been styling, I have found that the most defining attribute that will help someone move through this transition is mindset, and at the end of the day, confidence. So as we talk about the job interview, confidence is really what is going to set you apart. While we do our mock interviews, I will be looking at your background, your lighting, and your outfit. And these are the 3 areas that we can really help you boost your apparent confidence. So the best part about doing an interview virtually is that you get to set up your own background. Your background is an opportunity to subliminally drop hints about who you are. So be intentional. Do your research. Think about some of the soft skills that are required for your job. So if you need to be highly organized and well kept, well, make sure that your unmade bed or dirty dishes aren't behind you. And if you have special interests, like think about the books or pieces of art or things like that that can be strategically placed behind you. Another tip is if you struggle with anxiety or you have higher sort of body activity, then choose a simple white wall or something simple in the background and maybe add a plant. Or on the flip side, if you're highly energetic, if you lack energy and if you are somewhat shy, then maybe create a vibrant background. So this is going to give the recruiter an opportunity to find out a little bit more about you without having to say anything. I highly recommend that you avoid digital backgrounds. They are just very distracting and they distort you. And in my opinion, it comes across that you're trying to hide something. So avoid them. And then the next part is lighting. So as far as lighting is concerned, confident people love to sit in the light. So whether you are confident or not, we're going to pretend that you are. And so I'm going to highly suggest that you get a good light. We have a bunch of examples that will be provided to you later, some references. Many of you have heard to sit in front of a window with natural lighting. That's great, but sometimes your background is not right in front of a window. So get yourself a light. I prefer the LED lights, the whiter light. Don't be afraid to be seen. You're going to bring the light and the sparkle to your recruiter's day, because you can imagine if you're interviewing a bunch of people all day long and they're in dark, dreary rooms, especially during winter, how wonderful it's going to be when you have light shining on you. And then the last part that is going to equip you with some confidence is your outfit. This could be a workshop in itself, but just a few little pointers. Always make an effort. This is going to set you apart from at least 50% of your competitors. Think about how you want to be perceived. It takes less than 7 seconds for someone to make a judgment about you based on your outer appearance. So make every single one of those seconds count. And remember, style is a way to say who you are without having to speak. So rather be overdressed than underdressed. Research your corporate culture. So for example, if you're in the tech industry and it might be a little less formal than your, financial industries, you can go ahead and maybe wear jeans, but definitely wear a button down and a jacket. If you're in the finance and legal sectors, gentlemen, make sure you wear a tie and a jacket. And ladies, you can also always dress up. Bright colors go a long way in Zoom, and add jewelry as well. If you are in an interview and you have really missed it and you feel like you are overdressed, there's nothing that stops you from just sitting back and halfway through the interview, take off your jacket and just, as if it's just getting warm or something like that. But you will never be penalized for being overdressed, but you will be penalized for being underdressed. Make sure that your clothing fits you. There's nothing worse than seeing someone in a jacket or shirt that's too tight or too loose. Make sure you're well kept. There are no creases, missing buttons, and this is good whether you're interviewing in person or on Zoom. And don't wear your best friend's outfit unless it matches your personality as well. It's important that it is a good match. Most of the candidates going up for this interview will have the capabilities. They will have the qualifications for this job. You will need to assess whether the corporate culture is a good fit. And this should be the main focus on the interview. But instead, your recruiter is going to focus on whether they can determine with certainty that you can do the job and whether anything that gets thrown at you, you will succeed. So they're wanting to impress their boss as well. This is where confidence is critical, and it's going to give you the lead to this race to get the job. So use your clothes to arm you up with confidence. I always tell people to wear something that makes them feel unstoppable, and make sure something you wear is giving you the energy and something that reminds you that you are worthy of success. I always tell my clients that you can have anything you want in life if you dress for it. So having said that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Layla, and I'll see you at the mock interview.
Great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Layla Spitani. I'm a TV host, actress, and media coach. I started in this business when I was still in college. I got my first TV hosting job when I was still a student, remarkably. I always thought I'd go more into the acting part of this career, but it turns out that I have had most of my success as a TV host and on-camera personality. Being that I've been working on camera for over 20 years, a long time, I've learned a lot of tips that I can share with anyone who wants to learn how to be their best on camera. I first started teaching probably a little over 15 years ago, being asked to be on panels or just to speak a little bit about confidence building techniques, or just anyone who needs some help about how to be their best on camera. And then I started doing private coaching and teaching my own classes. Back when I first started, it was mostly people who wanted to be TV hosts. And as you guys have seen, the world just keeps changing. I started training people who were YouTubers, digital influencers, reality TV stars trying to break into a TV hosting gig. Then it became just anyone working in the corporate world who wanted to be on camera, executives, it's just, you name it, anyone who has to be on camera. I never thought then that I would be training people how to be on a Zoom interview, but here we are. The times have changed. And I don't think the Zoom interview is going to go anywhere. So I think it's important to learn how to be your best on camera for these Zoom interviews, because even though you're on a computer, you're still on camera. And on-camera techniques can really help you to be your best in any virtual interview. So a few things that I've learned that can help is, first of all, if you were to walk into an office for an interview with someone in person, you'd want to look them in the eye and shake their hand and really make that connection. And it's just as important when you're doing it virtually to look them in the eye through your camera rather than looking at them on screen and trying to find where they are. Because what happens is we end up just seeing the top of your eyelids mostly, and we don't feel that connection as we do when you're looking into the camera. It feels like you're really paying attention, you're present, you're confident. It takes a little bit of practice, I know, because I always want to look down and see everybody and see what everyone's doing. And you can do that and check back in, but make sure you keep that strong connection. Another thing to remember in these digital interviews, there's a slight delay. So it's very easy to talk over top of each other. So be careful. You might need to take a beat, a moment, so that you're not constantly just struggling to get those words out because you keep interrupting each other. Another thing to remember is an interview, whether it's on television, on a major network, or on Zoom for an interview with someone who wants to hire you for a job, it's an interaction. And one thing I've been seeing a lot of in teaching these classes is people get on and they just have this rehearsed, let me run you through my resume real quick, and this is who I am, without allowing it to be that interaction, which is so important for an interview. So allow there to be questions. Of course, you want to be prepared. We're here to prepare you guys, right? But it shouldn't feel rehearsed, and it should be that interaction to let the person ask you the questions they really want to get across. Because they could be interviewing God knows how many people, right? Like hundreds. So make sure that you are being yourself on your best day. I say that for TV or for these Zoom interviews. Come in, whatever you need to do to get into that zone, whether it's like doing some breathing exercises, doing a workout, some jumping jacks to get yourself pumped up, but come in feeling your best. Kim will be talking about looking your best, being prepared. This is me on my best day, because you want that interviewer to want to hire you and be around you, you know, on a regular basis. So come in absolutely feeling your best. These are things I teach for TV, which is also great for Zoom as well. So with that being said, those are the points I wanted to hit. We have only 25 minutes left, and we really want to make sure that we do some short little sweet practice mock interviews, because with these mock interviews, you really see the techniques that we're talking about in action. So we have two awesome, brave volunteers that we'll just do a couple questions with, so we can make sure we have plenty of time for all of you guys participating to ask questions at the end. So our first volunteer, I believe, is, who was it, Ruth?
Andres Emmanuel Colon.
Okay.
Great.
And here he is. Hello, Andres. Are we saying your name correctly?
Good afternoon. You did very well. Andres is fine.
I like that better. It sounds so much better.
Hi,
Thank you so much for
Andres.
volunteering. We appreciate you.
Not a problem.
It's great to meet you. I'm very excited to get to know a little bit more about your background.
Likewise, Ruth. Thank you for being here, and I'm excited to help out in any way I can.
Awesome. Why don't we start with you just telling us a little bit about yourself by walking us through your resume?
Sure. So I'm going to bring it a little bit back. I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I had the privilege to attend New York University. I majored in politics, and I double minored in computer science and business studies at the Stern School of Business. While I was a student, I also had the opportunity to work for some leading tech startups such as Uber and Blade, which really propelled after I graduated. And I used my eclectic academic background to really exemplify the opportunities and take advantage of the opportunities I had in my career. So I started in startups, and working at Uber opened up a lot of doors to future endeavors, and it was great. I was working in a fast-paced environment, always evolving, staying on my toes, and being very agile and flexible.
Sorry, go on.
No problem. It was really exciting, very exciting time. It was early 2014, 2015. After I graduated in 2016 from NYU, I stayed with Uber for another year before I pivoted to the other side of the business coin. I went to a Fortune 500. I worked at Macy's as an online merchandiser. I was enrolled into the executive development program, which was a fast feeder into a full-time merchandising role. It was, as I mentioned, the other side of the business coin, coming from the startup world and going to a more structured business environment allowed me to see the different sides of business, from early ramped up startup to a more full-fledged, historic company. These were great opportunities that really showed me where I fit and allowed me to capitalize on white space opportunities. So that's a little bit of the background that I had in my career.
Sounds like an awesome background, Andres. It's going to be very exciting for you to launch your search. What I'd like to start with is the best approach, I think, as a recruiter when answering that question, which is really one of the, I'll bet my bottom dollar, it's going to be the first question that most interviews start with. The important, the goal of that question is for you to pick certain points in your experience and honing it on the job that you will be interviewing for. So for example, I love the way you stated that it's a combination of being in a startup and being in a more corporate environment. Wonderful experience. But I think, Uber and then merchandising are two very different experiences. So again, it's going to depend on the type of job you're interviewing for. And then you want to pull from those two different experiences what the key job functions were that you feel could make you relevant to that role you're interviewing for.
Great. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Walking a person or the interviewer through your background is an opportunity for you to show off the key points and the key skills that you have gained through your experiences as it relates to that role. That's the best approach. Another typical job interview question is, what are your weaknesses? Do you want to try and take a stab at that?
Sure. So one of the things I constantly working on is not being an overthinker. At times, it could be very disabling and hindering to get stuck, deer in headlights. It's very important to use all the resources available at hand to face an obstacle and, use the tools that you have to get over the hump. And I think that it's something that I constantly work on, is using the tools that I have, whether that be employees, whether that be, cases that have already been handled in the past, using that insight and that information to use those to get over obstacles and to confront the problem head on. And that's something that I'm constantly working on and trying to get better at, because I don't think you ever reach perfection, but it's striving towards perfection.
I love the way you answered that question, because you shared a weakness, but you turned it around to show off all the great skills you have learned or you have developed by being very cognizant of your weakness. That's the best way to approach that question. No one really wants to know your true weakness. This is not a conversation about, oh, I'm like this, or I really feel bad about this. That's not what job interviews are about. It's an opportunity for you to show off your skills again. It's about sharing a side of you that's authentic, because you are talking about a true weakness, but then how you've overcome it. So I think that was wonderful. I'm going to turn this over to Kim as well, as far as your background and that aspect of the interview prep.
Great. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
Hi, Andreas. Okay, so for me, I'm going to look, and I want to look and see how I can make you stand apart from everybody else.
Sure.
So first things first, you need more lighting on your face. So you have great light in the background, but it's blowing you out. So there's like a lot of shadows and I can't see your eyes, which is like the window to your soul. And so, oh my gosh, you see that smile? Like, I want to see more of that if I were interviewing you. Okay. So now all of a sudden, like, you're so interesting. I want to know more. So more light on your face. I also saw, while we're dealing with lighting in the Q&A, that people were asking for lighting. There are many different types of light you can get on Amazon. Just look for LED lighting, and there's different cost points as well. But you want the lighting right in front of you on your face, okay? And then what's going on in the background? What's over your chair? Is it like a sheet or a blanket or something?
Yeah, it's this is my wife's typical office space that I'm just using, borrowing for the day. And so, yeah, this is her chair she uses. There's like a sheet over it. It's a really old antique chair. We're actually, during the pandemic, we relocated from Los Angeles, and we are in a family's second vacation home. So we don't get to really choose too much of the furniture, but we're working with what we have.
Don't you worry, that's no problem. We just don't want it to be distracting. So I keep thinking, like, is that your bed sheet on the chair, or, you know, so if you are going to take interviews in that space, I would take it off. It doesn't even matter if the chair looks antique, because that's kind of cool. If it looks like it's falling apart, then maybe we want to just, you know, get a different chair. But I would want to create something. You can have a plain background. You have beautiful cream colored walls behind you, which actually really will complement you. Maybe, you know, being behind a wall and move a little side table to place in front of you and put your computer on that, and a little green plant. I would like a little color. So it's just a little bit drab. So add a plant or something. And then as far as your outfit, I think you're really presentable. Again, it's hard to see the details because it's so dark. But my question to you would be, how do you want the universe, or how do you want, I always said the universe, but what do you want people to know about you? Like, what makes you special?
I really want to come off business casual. As I mentioned, worked in tech where it's very casual. But I also like to present myself as someone who can be business formal and fit into that role. At Macy's, while I worked there, I constantly wore suits, even though they had just moved into a more casual setting, because I wanted to set myself apart and stand apart. So that's what I'm working with right now. I'm currently wearing a white button down underneath a cashmere quarter zip.
Okay. But what makes you special as a person?
As I mentioned before, I really just want to look like I'm very presentable, that I am very business focused, but am flexible and understand that the environments I'm in, I'm very malleable to those environments.
Okay, awesome. So there's my answer. You want to show that you are very malleable. You're a people person. You want to work with people. If that's the case, we want to really show that part of you. Right now, everything looks pretty, stoic is not the word I'm looking for, but like non-malleable, the opposite of what you're going for. Okay, so we definitely want to add a few neutrals into your outfit. Maybe even if you're interviewing for tech, your first interview, step it up. Your second interview, you can show up the way you're dressed. I don't know if you're opposed to it, but if someone is very people orientated and you want to like just come across like you can handle all sorts of situations, we want to show. So for ladies, if there are ladies out there, I always suggest you roll up your sleeves of a blazer. Men, the same. Men, you don't roll up your jacket, but if you are, I don't know, presenting, I would suggest, you can roll up your sleeves of your shirt. I would suggest you open the top button of your collar. But if you're going for a first interview, I suggest you wear a coat. You don't have to wear a blazer. So the difference between a coat and a blazer for men is, don't go with the navy blue, like the standard suit jacket. Go for a sports coat that has maybe got texture in it. That's more of a, they're all wool based, but not the shiny kind of, I wish I could go grab my husband's, but something that's more textured and, the kind that you can wear with jeans and an open button down. That's going to show that you have so much more command, that you are confident, that you are successful. and it's going to bring light to the situation. Being too closed up actually tells me like you are more like a details person. You're not a people person. So be careful of that. And that's just, just comes out with practice. Really think about what you want to say. I hope that helps a little bit. You can always reach me on social media and send me some pictures and I can help you out with that.
Thank you. No, very understandable. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I'm just going to add a few things. So a couple things I would suggest, same as Kim said about the smile, like changes everything. One thing I've noticed, whether it's you're auditioning for a TV show or you're interviewing on Zoom, people tend to feel so nervous. They forget that it's okay to have fun and enjoy the process and smile once in a while. And just like having a nice warm smile immediately, it's like, oh, okay, that's someone I want to work with. I like this person, right? I know you want to like take it very seriously, but you can take it seriously and also have fun with explaining what you're good at, the joy in the process, right? And I would suggest when Ruth tried to come in with a couple questions, like I said in the beginning, allow that interaction, allow there to be questions, the interviewer wants to ask a question, allow them to ask the question, right? Everybody has like some, usual kind of nervous habits. We all have them. And when we get on camera, they come out so much more pronounced. So when there was some nerves, there was like a little bit of lip smacking, and like hard swallows, you know what I mean? So just make sure that I always keep a big glass of water with a straw because I talk on camera all day long for my work. I need to keep very hydrated. Otherwise I'm doing the same thing. So it's just a tiny thing, just be aware of it. It just comes across like a nervous habit. But otherwise, I mean,
Okay.
you did a really terrific job. You seem very prepared. These are all just tiny little details that are going to help you in the process to make it even better. And one more thing I want to add that goes for everybody is I suggest not ever doing a Zoom interview in front of a bed. I think it takes away this kind of, it just doesn't feel professional. So if there's any way you can set it up so the bed is blocked and just not in the camera view, I think it just takes it up and looks more professional. Okay.
Agreed.
Thank you again for volunteering. We have literally 10 minutes left. I think it best if my my other ladies here agree to skip the second interview and allow for Q&A because we only have 10 minutes. What do you think, Ruth?
I don't know. I mean, we can do a quick one with just one question. Heather, for Emily Rose.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Andres.
Not a problem. Thank you, ladies.
Hi, Emily Rose.
Hi, ladies. How are you?
Hi, it's good to meet you. Welcome, welcome. I was so excited to meeting you.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm trying to find you, and I apologize for that. Ah, there you are. Okay, great.
Okay. I want
Awesome.
to make sure.
I have your resume, and I wanted to ask, what are you looking for right now in your search?
Yeah, absolutely. So as my resume, shows, I'm currently working for an organization that I've worked for throughout my college experience. I actually just graduated this past May from the GLS program, and I minored in both business and French while I spent my junior year in Paris. And on top of that, I'm also working for a tech company that's based out of San Francisco. So I'm a little bit doing a little of a lot, I would say. But I think my biggest thing when it comes to looking for roles is I'm trying to find that common thread of, what are my strengths? What are, the skill set that I think I innately have? So I'm constantly looking for roles that might be a little bit more client facing. But at the same time, talking about the strengths and weaknesses, where are things that I hope to improve upon. So actually currently at Charity Water organization I'm working for now, I'm in a role that's a little bit more data centric, data focused, and that's not really where my background is, what other experiences are in. But it's really been a wonderful opportunity to learn and to grow, making sure that I'm double and triple checking my work. So it's that constant, balance of, is it the right fit role wise, but also is it the right fit organization and company wise, making sure that, I agree with their business values, things like that. So it's a little bit of a lot, I would say.
Great. I think the challenge when asked that question, and you've had such diversity of experiences, you have a fantastic educational background. The thing with interviews is you literally do have to spoon feed your background to that role that you're interviewing for.
Right.
I speak from the perspective of recruiters, whether external or internal, working for companies, especially in today's labor market where there are just so many people looking for work. When someone asks you, what are you looking for? It's really asking you to hone in or focus on what your search is. And so that really gives you a tremendous amount of control as far as the information that you craft and what you say. And you can tailor it to that particular conversation or meeting or interview. But you have to be focused. And even if the roles you feel are so diverse and it's hard to kind of explain it in a cohesive way, the preparation will be about finding the common denominator with all the different experiences and then shaping that so it fits with your story, with your spiel for that role. That's the reality of interviewing. And it's really, I think that's one of the challenges when you haven't done as much interviews. It's literally somewhat of a game where you are creating your narrative, your professional narrative.
And I think that depending on the role, right, like you said, you want to tailor it, and, whether it's more client facing, whether it's, depending on the role, it's making sure that you tie in maybe the smaller experiences that you have that match in, with that role.
Absolutely. And it's really, the burden is on us as job searchers to build that story. And that's why the preparation, the basics of the preparation really come into play. Understand that job description inside and out and figure out a way where your resume and the way you tell your story speak to that job. Do some research on the person you're interviewing with. LinkedIn is fantastic for that. So you can also get a sense of their background. Maybe there's something you have in common with them. Maybe it'll give you insight on what their professional experiences have been, and you can somehow relate your story. Maybe that person has a similar professional background where they've tried many different things. So that's something you have in common. So it's all about crafting that story with use of the resume, the LinkedIn, and preparation for your brand story. I'm going to let Kim and Layla also give you their feedback because I know we're a little bit pressed for time, but I really wanted to meet you because I knew you're pretty early on in your job search, and I'd be happy to speak to you outside of this forum too.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Hi, Emily. Just quickly. So two of the candidates both have this issue. And so I want everyone to really see the importance of lighting. I can only see half your face. It's very dramatic. I feel like I'm in a film noir situation.
I need kind of big windows to get the light, but yeah.
So you're going to have to try and see if you can get a little desk light, or change the position of your table. But we really want to see your face. It's way too dark. And I have to be honest, the plant behind you is a little distracting. It's really big. So if you were applying for like a job in sciences or botany or something like that, fantastic, because you just look like the plant girl lady, But in what you're going for, I would move away a little bit. So that's lighting, and then that's background, and then in your clothing, again, the question is, what do you really want to say about you? What makes you different? Do you want to be bold and project and ooze like tons of confidence and success? Maybe you want to try a bolder color So I'm going to just sort of do a brief overview so more people can get some more advice about it. Blues are great in finance sectors. Blues are very stabilizing. They show that you have things under control. You're very good with money. Red is very powerful, but for women, you need to be careful of red. If another lady is interviewing you, red can come across a little too much and a little threatening. So just something to think about, Pink is sometimes a better fit. So it's strong, it still has color, but it's a little more feminine, it's less intense than red. Orange is great for some creativity. Neutral colors are great for showing that you are one member of the team. So, do you want to be a collaborative person or are you a leader? Two different looks, okay? You look great in a turtleneck, you have a nice long neck, so that's fine, but I would definitely add a little bit of vibrance. You mentioned you went to Paris. Oh my gosh, have fun with that. Have a little necktie, or bring that Parisian flair to you, and maybe that becomes a sidestep of a conversation. So we want to see a little bit of Emily.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, all right. I hope that helps. Thanks for volunteering.
Of course.
Hi. So my big things were exactly what Kim just touched on with the lighting, because it's really hard to see your face. So I didn't really see a lot of the facial expressions that I could have commented on because it's really dark, right? Looks like you're someplace wonderful though, but we need to be never, and they say this in my business too, you never ever put your camera in front of a window, because that's always going to be a bad idea, because the light coming in behind you is going to get all the attention, right? My main thing would be just find a way that you can get into a zone where you just feel nothing but pure comfort and confidence. And remember, an interview is not an interrogation. Even though we all get so nervous, we're like, oh my God, I want this job so bad, or I want it, I need to have it, right? You need to allow yourself to do some type of something that's going to get you into a relaxed space of confidence. And like I was saying in the beginning, this is just me at my absolute best. I can't give you one tip for that, because I feel like it's different for every person. When I work with clients individually, it's always different for each one what's going to get them to that place, right? We all have it. So that goes for everybody. We need to get to a place where we can feel so at ease, confident, and comfortable in front of that camera, right? To be our absolute best. But otherwise, really good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, ladies, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Oh, we hope it helps you, and we wish you all the best in your job search.
Thank you.
Please feel free to reach out to me if you need further guidance, okay?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. And I'm wondering, Heather, do you think it might be a good time to start the Q&A? So we want to make sure we cover everyone's questions. And Carrie?
Yes, that's perfect. Hopefully my camera's on. Yes, excellent. Yeah. Thank you, first and foremost, to our speakers today. I think hopefully that was really helpful for everyone. I know it was also helpful for me. As you can tell, I have a very dark kind of black background behind me, and definitely took some good tips away on how I can improve the Zoom on my end. And so I hope you all felt that, as well as the practice interviews. So we have a lot of great questions, a couple that are similar. So I'm going to try to put those together so that we can hear an answer for all the audience. We had a couple come in earlier on about how to dress for specific careers or industries. In one particular case, an alum looking to do academic PhD interviewing or faculty interviewing, another looking at environmental conservation, where there's a lot more field work outside of the office space. So overall, what would your recommendations be for how, as candidates, we can figure out ahead of time the best way to present ourselves personally, but also within the culture, the environment of that workplace?
I guess that's for me to answer. So I always start with asking somebody, how do you want someone to see you or perceive you? Okay. So if you think about in your field that you're applying for, if you're going to be managing someone's finances, they want to know that you make good money, a lot of money for them, that you're confident, you don't doubt yourself, that you are very solid in finances. So we want to project a lot of confidence, okay? But then, and this finance and legal fields very similar, okay? When we're going to sciences and research, we're looking for people who who are very detail orientated. So sometimes you want to be a leader and sometimes you want to be part of a group. Again, two different looks. I will address the looks, but it's more of taking the time to actually think about how you want to be seen. And so if you're being hired to be part of a team and you come across as too much of a leader, it's not a bad thing. It's just that's not going to be a good fit for the job. If you're working in nature conservation, again, you want to show that you're good at what you do. So I don't think just because you're going to be working in nature conservation, you need to show up in your khakis and your outfield boots, because you want to think of yourself as like presenting a research paper to a group of panelists, right? So, but I'm not going to put you in something that's a lot of polyester and a lot of shine. You want to then come across as authentic to your field. So choose a sustainable fabric or something that's more natural, more neutral tones. So it's more about the process of thinking. Just realizing that what you wear says so much about you. Once you figured that out, you can go and research this. That's what our stylists are there for, or you can do the research yourself. Certain colors mean certain things. There's different ways of putting an outfit together, but start off by thinking how you want to be perceived and what makes you feel good. That's the big thing. Coming out as feeling great about yourself is like step number one. I hope that answers a little bit. Again, you can reach out to us personally on social media.
Carrie, I also want to add something really quickly because I get this question a lot because as a recruiter, we serve so many different industries. I also suggest to my candidates that they look up the company and look at the company website. More often than not, you're going to see photos of employees, the office. That will really give you an indication, a real peek into that culture. Some private equity firms are super casual. A hedge fund with 32-year-olds is very different from a Goldman Sachs where you're working for the chairman. You're going to dress very differently for those interviews. So websites, look into that, look at different sections about a company and also some of their more informal events that's typically on the websites as well in the HR sections.
Social media for those companies are also a great resource. And look at the social events. Mm-hmm. So C-suite interviews are going to look very different from entry-level interviews as well.
Thank you both. That was great. Another question we had come in is when you're in a virtual space and you're doing virtual interviewing, what tips do you have if it's clear when you're on the candidate side that the interviewer seems uninterested or isn't as engaged as you'd like them to be, or maybe just not showing much enthusiasm, right? The cameras are right in our faces. We can see close up often. What tips do you have for that type of a situation?
Yes, that is a situation that does come up whether you're in person or virtual, unfortunately. And it really is driven by the mood of that person interviewing you. For me, my advice is take a breath, take a step back. A little humor always helps. I mean, I advise my candidates, take a step back and just say, I'm sorry, can I just have a couple moments, or using a little bit of humor. Otherwise, it's really incumbent on you to just keep moving forward, try to make it more lighthearted, adjust your tone, adjust your pace to that person. But that's a very difficult situation to deal with. For me personally, I would try to use humor to lighten the moment. That always helps.
And I would just add, because this happens in my business too, for auditions, people are like on the other side of the camera, texting, Instagramming, eating lunch. But that doesn't necessarily mean, and I think Ruth would probably agree, just because they may be having that reaction, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing a bad job or you're not going to get the job. So you just have to allow yourself to still keep going, being your best and giving it your all. Don't give up. Because you could totally still get the job, even though they're terrible at their facial expressions. Wouldn't you agree,
Ruth? Stay professional. Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. And I know you guys have talked and touched on throughout this event on lighting. We had a couple of questions come in about that. And just for everyone with us today, we are sending support materials out afterwards. So you'll get some additional recommendations for lighting sources. But one question that came up was actually about the camera itself when you're doing virtual interviews. Do you have any recommendations for showing, I guess, how close should the camera be, first of all, or how far away? And is it recommended to show just your face or the top of your shoulders? Should it be more zoomed out so you see more of the outfit or beyond just the head and shoulders? What do you suggest for this type of interview process?
That's a really good question. And I would say, and I think that my other ladies here would agree, the way we are all in camera right now, you don't want too much headroom, right? Because that looks just very weird. You don't want to be too close because it's very unflattering and uncomfortable, right? So you just want to make sure that it's, I would say about like this shot is great. And practice, turn your camera on. I always get on Zoom before anything important and just kind of take a look at my background, make sure there's nothing back there that's distracting, making sure my outfit looks okay, my makeup is not too heavy, whatever. Get on and just take a look and make sure it's flattering and it's working before you go into anything that's really important to you. Do you ladies agree? Anything to add to that?
I'd like to add a little bit to that. For Zoom interviews in particular, you can log on to Zoom prior to your interviewer to make sure everything's perfect. The angle, the lighting, you can see yourself. I actually do this. I use my camera phone, but I also use the Zoom to make sure that, you know, that I'm not like this or my head is not cut off. I practice way before the time of the interview. Typically, I'll tell my candidates to please log on 20 minutes prior to your interview time. You can also check your internet connection. Again, it's on you to make everything perfect and to run as smoothly as possible on your end. You want to make sure your Wi-Fi is working and that your internet is strong and that you look your best.
Oh, I just wanted to add one more thing too. You should always be kind of at eye level with your camera too, and make sure you're not like higher than your camera and looking down at it or lower than your camera and looking up. It should be right at eye level. And if you can't do that, they sell all kinds of great stuff to raise your computer or laptop, or just get a bunch of books or shoe boxes or something sturdy to set it on so that it's at the right height.
Thank you. So I know we have about 5 minutes left. This may be the last question. We'll maybe one more after that, but I think this is a great question that came in. Would love to hear from all of you on your thoughts. We had an alum ask, what is one of the best Zoom interviews you've seen and what made it so great?
Which one would you pick, Ruth?
Okay. I have so many Zoom interviews daily, and I think the ideal Zoom interview, first of all, is starting with a background, no clutter. It is, if you're a hoarder, it's the time to hide that. So a clutter-free background. Carrie, I actually love your background. I love that it's one color, because you know what? Then I'm just focused on you. So that's the first.
Good.
Content. You know when someone has prepared for that interview. You know when someone has researched the company that they're going to, the job, so they're able to speak to it and they tailor what they're telling you, how they sell themselves to that job. Preparation is key. Timeliness, making sure that you're on time, you don't have people waiting. You know, technology is just really at zero deficiency. Those are the interviews that I find very, very successful. I've had many. I mean, I don't know how specific I can get, but it's a person, oh, this is actually very relevant this week. I found that some people think that because it's a Zoom interview and maybe because it's only with a recruiter, it's not directly with the client. I had someone show up for an interview, very casual, in a hoodie, with an unmade sofa in the back that showed somebody just slept there, and her hair in a scrunchie. So it was obvious that she had not prepared for an interview with me. I think it's really important to just show that kind of respect to whomever you're meeting with over Zoom, whether it be an external recruiter or the person that you're actually going to be working for. It's so important because you just don't know. So preparation.
An interview that stood out for me was on one of these formats, and it was Matthew the clown. He
Yeah.
was a professional clown who, I think he was going into communication and in the corporate industry of like gathering groups together, and but because he was so confident in himself, it was so fun to talk to him. And he was someone who had a lot of clutter behind him and a lot of colors. And so we actually worked with him privately afterwards, and his transformation was so incredible. He toned down his outfit, and he had this beautiful executive background, but it was his confidence that really stood out, because we all know we come to this platform with 50 things going on, especially in the era of Zoom. You could be, interviewing with a recruiter, and they're at home with kids, or with a little one or a big one. We're in such a bizarre time. And when you sit down with someone who's connecting with you, who's fun and who's confident, it's just like, oh, can I get a coffee and can we chat? Versus someone who's I know it's nerve-wracking. Sometimes we get nervous even doing this sort of thing, but it's taking a breath. I saw in the chat someone said, how to prepare for this. It's taking a breath, as Ruth said, practice, and do everything you can to feel like Layla said, yourself on a great day, and really just embody the confidence and have a good time. We just, anyone wants to just have a moment of have a break from all that's going on.
Good advice. I worked with a coach years ago who used to say, go into it like you're just jumping off the cliff and you got nothing to lose. And I use those words all the time still. She told me that like 20 years ago. It's like, you just got to take a chance, take a leap, and just go for it. Because really, it's not going to be the only job interview of your lifetime. There will be others. Of course, like there's some we want more than any other one. I feel that way too. And we put the pressure on ourselves. But if you take the pressure off and you just take that leap and you jump off the cliff and you just go for it, you're going to feel so much better afterwards than just like sitting there and putting all this pressure on yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you all. We're really right on time. I want to respect everyone's time, whether it's the morning, the afternoon, the evening, where you're tuning in from. So I want to say a final thank you to our speakers today. It was a wonderful presentation, and I think really unique for us to hear all of the different sides, right? Both practicing the interview, the content, the lighting, the visuals, the background. It's really important to keep in mind. And I think many of us all experienced a switch to virtual very quickly. So I think it's really helpful for us to hear these tips and continue to find ways to get comfortable and improve, the ways in which we're presenting ourselves in the interview process in this kind of newer format as compared to a year or two ago. So thank you all for joining us. A quick reminder, we will send a survey out afterwards. Please feel free to share your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And that will also include additional support resources from everybody, from the speakers here today, as well as their contact information. So you are welcome to reach out to them directly, follow up with them. Also, if you have any specific questions about NYU Wasserman or the Alumni Relations Office, we will include the email for the NYU Wasserman Center, and that will come to me directly. So any questions that come up on that side, we're also here to help. So enjoy the rest of your day. I hope everyone has a wonderful time, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Carrie. That was wonderful.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who joined us today.
Good luck,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Yes.